Hello and welcome to Communication Connection. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Terry Likes. Mississippi State University has a plethora of people who disseminate news and information to the public on a daily basis. And we are pleased to be joined by an alum of the program who is a writer and editor for the College of Arts and Sciences. Sarah Nicholas is our guest. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us on Communication Connection.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, as mentioned, an alum. You graduated in the year 2000. You are in the public relations concentration
Yes.
of the communication department, and you grew up in Starkville. I guess being from here, was it just a natural fit that you were going to attend Mississippi State?
A lot of people ask that. In a way, yes. I have teenagers now, and watching them go through the college making decision, what I saw growing up here and what I see with my children and their friends, a lot of people talk big about leaving Starkville, but when it's time to make that decision, why would you go anywhere else? We have an SEC powerhouse literally in our backyard. Why go anywhere else? It was a very obvious choice.
And so we mentioned that you are a writer and editor and part of a large team that produces news and information in a variety of ways because there's so much going on within the university. You are within the College of Arts and Sciences. Tell us about what you do on a daily basis.
I'm the writer for the entire college, and the Office of Public Affairs disseminates all news and information from Mississippi State. Each college within the university typically has a communication team, and I'm the writer for our team. So whenever we have newsworthy events happening within the college, which is all the time, every day, I will create the verbiage or the content for whatever medium. I work with a lot of faculty members who maybe are creating a brochure that they're wanting to send out for their particular program, and I'll edit their content for them. Or I will write articles. That is primarily what I do. I will create articles that share news with our campus community and with the local community and with the state, highlighting the successes of our faculty, staff, and students.
So when you think about it, you mentioned faculty, for example. So many faculty are doing noteworthy things. So many programs have events and things going on. So it's an opportunity for you to shine a light on all of the great things happening coming from the College of Arts and Sciences.
It's my favorite part about my job is shining a light just to highlight what our people are doing. We have programs in our weather department, in the Department of Geosciences. They host a yearly seminar, and we get big, huge names from weather stations who will come. And I love to write that article, just announcing, hey, this is happening. We have faculty members who get millions of dollars worth of grant funding from the National Science Foundation or the National Institutes of Health. I love to let our people know that. That's huge news. We also have faculty members who are published authors. They write books that you can go to Amazon and buy. I like to let our community know what our people are doing.
And how is the information distributed to the public? How do your articles get out there? Is it primarily through the university website, college websites?
Primarily OPA pushes it out, but we always will write and send it to the Office of Public Affairs. Then they will submit it through our website. On social media, they will send it to newspapers. Good old-fashioned newspapers still exist. So if we're writing about a student who's gotten a Fulbright scholarship, then I'll write that article, send it to the Office of Public Affairs. They'll make sure that student's hometown newspaper gets that news, but then they'll put it online. We'll link it to our website, and we'll push it out in social media. And we actually find that our social media feeds get a lot of hits. So we know that the news is getting out there.
And for those who don't know, the College of Arts and Sciences is the largest on campus. It's comprised of 14 departments, various centers and institutes, and just so much more. You and your colleagues have a lot going on, a lot of stories to tell.
Every day, I say that I learn something new every day, and it's true. Our departments in arts and sciences, we range from things like English and philosophy all the way to chemistry and physics. And when I write an article about a faculty member's research, I learn that news, and I feel smarter every day because of what I do.
Now, being a communication person like myself, I'm not that well versed in physics and chemistry and biology and some of the other disciplines. That has to be a challenge for you to not only be able to gather that information, be able to understand it to where it can be understandable for an audience.
That is absolutely by far the hardest challenge when we're working with a discipline that I don't understand. I'm a communication person. I can handle any word problem, but I don't have a PhD in physics, so writing an article to try to explain a physics professor's work in a way that our average audience, and we try to write for an 11th grade audience, that is a big challenge. And also, I always want to be respectful of our faculty. I know that what they do is very detailed and difficult, and I don't want to dumb it down, but you do need to make it where the average person can read it and understand what this physicist has done.
Well, in a way, like a journalist, you have to be able to take that information and make it easily understandable across a broad spectrum of people. And when a specialist, whether it's a police officer or a professor, they'll talk in their own language, and most often everyone else doesn't understand some of the specific terminology within that language. So that's part of your role.
Absolutely, every day, and I'll look at what their research is about, and then I'll have to call the professor and I'll have to say, I need you to tell me, why does this work matter to the average person? And usually that'll get the answer I'm looking for, because they'll try to explain it. Sometimes I even ask, pretend like you're talking to a 6th grade classroom. How would you describe your work?
And the university of late has even had some seminars on how to communicate science information to the public.
Yes.
And that's part of what you're doing.
It is, having to take my skill set in language and words and how to write a sentence in a way that the average person can understand and learn. That's a big part of what I do.
Now, all of this daily work that you do, but there is something on a bigger spectrum that you work on, and it's a magazine for the college. It's called Vision, and I know you make major contributions to that. Tell us about Vision and when we can see that magazine.
Vision magazine is our major publication that we put out every year, and it typically comes out in February or March, but it is a yearly project. As soon as we get one printed and disseminated to the public, we begin the process for the next year. So I would say that Vision is our biggest outreach to alumni. It gets mailed to all of our donors, and it's a way for them to keep connected with what all is going on in the university. We try to spotlight a lot of what our students are doing in Vision magazine, what our departments are doing. We try to connect with alumni and spotlight alumni, just so our readership can understand how staying connected with the college is a lifetime, I hate to say commitment, joy. It's a lifetime joy, staying connected with your college.
Is it more or less a compilation of stories that have accumulated throughout the year, or is it a chance to take specific stories and go in more detail, or a combination?
It is a combination.
Okay.
We typically pick a theme and we try to stay roughly within that theme. So obviously in 2020, when we went through COVID, the theme that year was looking back, looking forward, how are we moving through the pandemic as a college? So I took some stories that had already been written and I just revisited them, and I called professors back and I said, let's flesh this out. This was a short news story. I want to make it a big article. Then we did an overview of how all of our different departments had their hand in COVID research. Then we did another article from a professor's perspective of how did you teach during the pandemic? What did that look like? So it is a combination of finding information we've already used, why reinvent the wheel, or coming up with fresh content.
You mentioned looking back and looking forward. Looking back to the year 2000 as a graduating senior, what have you learned from then and carries over that you still use today?
I think that every single class I took at Mississippi State in the communication department has had a huge hand in who I am today. There are lessons I learned. I still remember where I was sitting in the classroom when Francis McDavid was teaching us about how to write a news story, or the old-fashioned boxy computers when Laura DeFore was teaching us how to lay out a newspaper page. And I actually still use her lessons. I was putting a picture frame on my shelf the other day and the person was looking in a certain direction, and so I remembered, oh, then I need to put it over here. So those types of lessons from my undergraduate years directly impact me today.
Well, and it's nice that you have professors that you remember fondly. Not everyone can remember who they had in the classroom, but you obviously do, so the program made an impact. The life is not all about work, so outside of the job and Mississippi State University, what do you enjoy about the university and or the surrounding community?
When my husband and I married the day after I graduated college. We moved away for 12 years, and when we moved back to the Starkville area, some of our friends we had been living in Jackson, they came to visit us in Starkville, and they commented, "Wow, everything here is maroon." And I said, "You are in the lion's den. Of course it's maroon." Starkville and Mississippi State are just connected, and you really just have to embrace that. So a lot of what we do in our off time as a family does revolve around Mississippi State, all the sporting events. Why would we not take advantage of that? It's amazing. We love all of the events Mississippi State offers, but we also love driving out to the Noxubee Refuge. It's a pretty far drive south, but it is gorgeous. Hiking trails, you can get a canoe and canoe, you can spot the alligators. That's one of our family favorites.
Is there a hidden gem or a piece of information that a newcomer wouldn't know about that because you've lived here for so long that maybe you even take for granted, but you're certainly aware of?
I do take for granted all of our wonderful restaurants here in Starkville. For visitors or newcomers, most of the time you have to get off Highway 12 and seek them out. But University Drive, very near the university, within walking distance, so many delicious restaurants. More of a mom and pop feel, but eating out is also one of our family favorites. We love it. We have so many good options here.
Again, we've talked about your days as an undergrad, and you have an opportunity to interact with students or at least reflect and think what it is you would like to share. What advice would you give a student today?
I would like all students to know you get out of college what you put in it. I had a close relationship with almost all of my professors because I made it a priority to get to know them. And I always tell students when I'm interacting, sit on the front row, get to know your professor, make sure your professor knows you. You cannot place a value on knowing your professor. If there was a problem, I could go to my professor. They knew me, they knew my work ethic, and they would work with me around any problem I was facing. But they also invested in me. The more you invest in your classes, the more your faculty members will invest in you. And I cannot stress that enough. Also, go to class. That's the number one thing I tell students. You're not going to learn if you're not in the classroom.
Well, Sarah Nicholas, thank you so much for joining us here on Communication Connection. We look forward to reading Vision magazine and hearing more about all the great things, the light that you are shining along with your colleagues about all things within the College of Arts and Sciences. So we appreciate you and thank you for giving back and for your service to the university and community. And we thank you for watching here on Communication Connection. I'm Terry Likes. We'll see you next time.